We've come to Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances.
You could say that again. So for those of you that don't know, Jeffrey Epstein, who is the head of the child sex trafficking ring, you know, the guy that definitely killed himself when he was in prison. He wasn't murdered, definitely not. He strangled himself to death in his own cell with toilet paper. The guards, they passed out. And there was electricity went out too, so all the cameras are gone. It was basically, I wish I could have seen what happened in that set. It was just this Laurel and Hardy thing where everyone just slips over, knocks himself out, and then everyone wakes up and Jeffrey Epstein's dead, definitely killed himself. Anyway, what's going on is Prince Andrew was heavily associated with Jeffrey Epstein, so he's decided to do an interview with the BBC, always impartial. And he's just going to explain why he appears to be friends with a sex offender. It's all going to be great. It's all perfectly normal. And yeah, let's have a go on this.
Normally, we'd be discussing your work, your duty. We'll come on to that. But today, you've chosen to speak out for the first time. Why have you decided to talk now?
Because there is no good time to talk about Mr. Epstein and all things associated. We've been talking to Newsnight for about 6 months about doing something around the work that I was doing. And unfortunately, we've just not been able to fit it into either your schedule or my schedule until now. And actually, it's a very good opportunity. And I'm delighted to be able to see you today.
Tell you what, man, Prince Andrew coming in hot. You got to admire the confidence on this guy. He's like, listen, there is no good time to defend yourself from allegations of being a sex offender. But listen, I'm a busy guy. You're a busy lady. We're here now. And I'm absolutely delighted to kick this thing off. Ready when you are. What's your first question? Nothing but net.
As you say, all of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people. And I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3 times a year. And quite often, if I was in the United States and doing things, and if he wasn't there, he would say, well, why don't you come and use my houses? So I said, that's very kind. Thank you very much indeed.
Listen. Do you have any idea how much money Prince Andrew is saving the taxpayer here? Do you have any idea? You know how expensive it is to live in New York? It's just, this is how it works in the upper circles. You meet someone twice a year, and they say, listen, I met you twice. We had breakfast, and then the other day I said hello to you in a hotel. Do you want to have my house? Just walk around my house. Just have my house for a few days. Yeah. I've seen you on this. To be fair, it's Prince Andrew. You've seen him on the TV, right? You know who he is. You're going to know who to call if the washing machine isn't broken. It's all normal. It's all perfectly normal. It's all normal. Nothing to see here. So far, this is believable. So maybe Prince Andrew, maybe he did crush this interview. Maybe the rest of this isn't a car crash. Okay, all you Prince Andrew haters out there that have already made up your mind. Okay, so far, he hasn't said anything entirely incriminating. Right? And there's only 47 minutes left of the interview, so...
But it would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend. But he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together.
And then sexually molest them, right? I mean, you sound like you're like... Who is advising Prince Andrew on this? Who is it? Don't say anything positive about Epstein, you nuts. He's up there, listen, this guy could ride a surfboard, man. He could catch a witch. Shut up, man. Don't say, especially not like some elitist, like, oh, this guy was, you get him on a croquet lawn. Yeah, then listen, this guy was an incredible guy. I mean, he could really take a room of people and get them all on the same page. Yeah, let's all hijack children. This is 1 minute in. You should have warmed up first, man. You know what I mean? You didn't stretch or something. God. Listen, just point of personal privilege. Okay, full disclaimer. I don't want the royal family to be involved in this thing, man. I don't want the royal family. I don't want that to be the case. I'm not saying that they're not involved. I'm not saying, I don't know. I'm not making any judgments so far. I want to see what happens. All right? I'm just telling you, okay, I don't want our royal family to be caught up in this. Okay, that's what I don't want. I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, I hope this is going to be good. I'm still hoping that we can get out of this, with some kind of dignity as a people. That's what I'm saying.
And that's the bit that I remember, is going to the dinner parties where you would meet academics, politicians, people from the United Nations. I mean, it was a cosmopolitan group of
potential sex offenders.
What I would describe as US eminence.
But was that his appeal then? Was that what because you were perceived by the public as being the party prince. Was that...
Dude, Prince Harry's going to be pissed, man.
That's something
Well,
you
I
shared?
think that's also a bit of a stretch. I don't know why I've collected that title, because I never have really partied.
What did you do on your birthday? Come on, man, everyone's partied. You haven't partied? Of course you're allowed to party. Just, with people more or less your own age. You guys should know this. Okay? You shouldn't be finding out this now live on the goddamn BBC. Mr. Farage, you don't like immigrants, do you?
I was single for quite a long time, in the early 80s. But then after I got married, I was very happy. And I've never really felt the need to go and party. And certainly going to Jeffrey's was not about partying. Absolutely not.
Okay. Strong response from the Prince Andrew team there. Check. Yeah. Me? Party? What's a party? I don't really know what a party... Jeffrey's? Certainly not. It wasn't about partying at all. How do you party? Does anyone? Have you got a manual I could have about partying? I really don't understand what you're saying. If a party is what you're saying I was doing, I guess I could find out what a party is, and I could send you maybe a letter or something and about what a party might be. I mean, does anyone have a party I could look at and I can tell you if I've seen one before?
You said you weren't very good friends, but would you describe him as a good friend? Did you trust him?
Yes, I think I probably did. But again, I mean, I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing, if you understand what I mean. I'm an engaging person. I want to be able to engage. I want to find out. I want to learn.
Well, here's a good thing to learn. Is this rich guy an international sex trafficker? But I mean, to be fair, let's try and be fair here. Let's try and be impartial. Okay, maybe someone in your life turns out to be a fucking weirdo and you didn't know. Is that your fault? No. Right? You can't expect Prince Andrew to go digging around in everyone's trash. He's an engaging guy.
And so you have to remember that I was transitioning out of the Navy at the time. And in the transition, I wanted to find out more about what was going on. Because in the Navy...
We will sail the seven seas in the Navy. We will something else in the Navy. Sorry, serious video. I'll snap out of it.
It's a pretty isolated business because you're out at sea the whole time.
I love the way he's handling this now. You're friends with Jeffrey Epstein, aren't you? Listen, I'm in the Navy. Do you know anything about being in the Navy? I was on a zero emissions boat. Okay, it worked for Greta. Why can't it work for Prince?
And I was going to become the special representative for international trade and investment. So I wanted to know more about what was going on in the international business world. And so that was another reason for going there. And the opportunities that I had to go to Wall Street and other places to learn whilst I was there were absolutely vital.
He's going on the old front foot here, isn't he? It's like, listen, lady, I was out there doing some vital work for the Navy. Do you know how isolating that is? I bet you don't. You're lucky I've got time for this interview. Okay, I'm a very engaging guy. So you've got to admire the confidence here.
Your guest as well. In 2000, Epstein was a guest at Windsor Castle and at Sandringham. He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation.
But certainly at my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation.
That's a good move. I approve of that message there. That was Prince Andrew owning it, man. That was saying, listen, it was me. Wasn't anyone else. Okay? It's pleasant to hear that.
But remember that it was his girlfriend that was the key element in this.
Well, I take that back. God, you can tell this is being recorded live, first take, can't you? Sheesh, I did a 180 there. He was like, listen, it wasn't the royal family, it was me. I invited him, but really, it was all his girlfriend's fault, if you think about it.
He was the, as it were, plus one to some extent in that.
Listen, this is to all my friends who happen to watch my YouTube channel. If I invite you to one of my events and I give you a +1, don't bring Jeffrey fucking Epstein or any other international sex trafficker, please.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend?
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
I'm starting to think me and Prince Andrew move in different circles. It's just a straightforward shooting weekend. Nothing to see here. Just a couple of pheasants and a shotgun. You know how it goes. We've all been there. Straightforward shooting weekend. I've got some follow-up. I don't know what goes on. What goes on at a shooting weekend? Do you shoot things for the whole weekend? Are they animals or clay pigeons or, you know, people from Haiti? That seems like that happens. You're not allowed to talk about that, are you? No, let's talk about Prince Andrew. Here's what I'm saying. Well, the BBC all on their high horse now. Let's rake Prince Andrew over the coals. When is the episode of this coming out with Bill and Hillary Clinton? When's that happening? Is that on next week? What time is that on the BBC next week? When are you going to go and sit down with Hillary and be like, listen, how many times have the Clintons been on this plane? I guess we're not going to do that, are we? But the British monarchy, well, yeah, let's grill them. But let's ignore everyone else. I'm not saying that if the British monarchy did something, there shouldn't be a problem with that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, where were the BBC when this was happening to girls in the north of England? Nowhere. All of a sudden they're sitting there. We are the defenders of truth here at the BBC. Now that it's you doing it, Prince Andrew. But before we didn't give a shit. We even helped cover it up.
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle, at Sandringham, the shooting weekend, we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
And here at the BBC, we break every single story we can about girls being sexually exploited, as long as it fits in with our politics and what we want to say. If it's happening to young girls in Britain and it doesn't suit us, we turn a blind eye. Did you know that? Did you? No, you don't know that, do you? Do you know why? Because we don't mention it. Ever. I'm a female. You can trust me.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me or anybody else that that was what he was doing. And certainly, when I saw him either in the United States, when I saw him in the United States, or when I was staying in his houses in the United States, there was no indication, absolutely no indication. And if there was, You have to remember that at the time, I was patron of the NSPCC's Full Stop campaigns.
Sorry, where are you going with this?
So I was close up with what was going on in those time about getting rid of abuse to children. So I knew what the things were to look for, but I never saw them.
Why would you bring that up in your own defense? Like, who is advising Prince Andrew? Pinky and the fucking brain? Yeah, listen, I had no idea that Jeffrey Epstein was this massive child sex trafficker because I was head of the organization that was supposed to spot things like that and stop them. So there's nothing to see here at all. Right.
So you would have made that connection because you stayed with him, you were a visitor, a guest on many occasions at his homes, and nothing struck you as suspicious?
Nothing.
During that whole time?
Nothing.
I'm going to be honest, man, this isn't very convincing. You know, this isn't very convincing. Is it? So are you convinced? Are you convinced by this? Text in, let us know. Just to let you know, this video has already been heavily ratioed. It's already got more downvotes than it has upvotes, but I don't even know what that means. I mean, if you upvote this, if you like this video, what are you saying? Like, if you dislike it, what are you saying? Like, it's an interview. I don't know.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane.
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
You visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London.
Yes.
So in 2006, in May, an arrest warrant was issued for Epstein for sexual assault of a minor.
Yes.
In July, he was invited to Windsor Castle to your daughter Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday. Why would you do that?
Because I was asking Ghislaine.
Come on, man, try not to give answers like James Bond when you're defending yourself about whether you knew a giant sex offender. You know, you're supposed to be on the back foot here. It's like, because I was asking Ghislaine. That's why. Because I was asking Ghislaine.
But even so, at the time, I don't think certainly I wasn't aware when the invitation was issued what was going on in the United States. And I wasn't aware until the media picked up on it, because he never said anything about it.
He never discussed with you the fact that an arrest warrant had been issued? No. So he came to that party knowing police were investigating him?
Well, I'm not quite sure whether was it police that were... I don't know. You see, this is the problem.
It was the Palm Beach police at the time.
But I mean, I'm afraid, you see, this is the problem, is that an awful lot of this was going on in the United States, and I wasn't a party to it, and I knew nothing about it.
In 2008, he was convicted of soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was jailed. This was your friend. How did you feel about it?
Well, I ceased contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation, and that was later on in 2006. And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So it was one of those things that if somebody's going through that sort of thing, well, I'm terribly sorry, I can't be...
so no contact?
No contact.
When he was serving time, there was no call, no letter, nothing there?
No.
He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right.
Well, this is going to have to be a good answer. No one likes to answer that question. Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender? Yeah, there's a good answer for this, and here it comes. Have you ever been in the Navy?
I have always, ever since this has happened, and since this has become, as it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do? Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together.
Send a text! Don't arrange a fucking shooting weekend, even if it's a straightforward one, whatever that is.
And I had a number of people counsel me, in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it.
Be a chicken, man. Be a chicken. They would have accused you of being a chicken. You realise they're now accusing you of being a sex offender? That's a lot worse. That's a lot worse. You should have taken the plea bargain at chicken.
I had to go and see him and talk to him. And I went to see him, and I was doing a number of other things in New York at the time. And we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park. And that was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact. And by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
What did he say when you told him that you were breaking up the friendship?
He was what I would describe as understanding.
He's back on the Epstein train again. Can you say something negative about the multiple child sex trafficker, please, Prince Andrew?
He didn't go into any great depth in the conversation about what I was doing, or what he was doing, except to say that he'd accepted whatever it was, a plea bargain. He'd served his time, and he was carrying on with his life. You see what I mean? And I said yes, but I'm afraid to say that's as may be. But with all the attendant scrutiny on me, then I don't think it is a wise thing to do.
Do you have any idea how bad this sounds? There's no remorse. There's no, he was a bad guy and it's terrible what he's done. It's like, listen, I went to the park and we had a little walk around. We had an ice cream and a toffee apple. And I said, listen, I know you've been caught being a sex offender, but, we're good friends, but it's going to look bad on me. So that's the main real tragedy here. And that's what I'm going to be working on. I'm in the Navy, so I'm isolated a lot.
Who advised you then that it was a good idea to go and break up the friendship? Did that come from the palace? Was Her Majesty the Queen involved?
No. That came from... So there were a number of people so some people from my staff, some people from friends and family I was talking to, and I took the decision that it was... I had to show leadership, and I had to go and see him, and I had to tell him, that's it.
Hanging out with a convicted child sex trafficker isn't leadership, man. You're not Julius Caesar. You're hanging around with a kid for...
That was December of 2010.
Yep.
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as the guest of honour.
Oh, in 2010? That certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release in December.
Dude, it doesn't matter when you were the guest of honour at a child sex trafficker gets released from prison party. You're in the royal family, man. You can't be the guest of honour for that. You're joking. He's nitpicking on dates and times.
Because it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think, at the dinner. If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honour?
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay. I was there at a dinner. Yeah.
It is all downhill from here, man. It's all downhill from here. Someone says, hey, by the way, you were guest of honour at a dinner at a child sex trafficker. Most people go on the back foot. I was like, yeah, okay. So I was at the child sex dinner. Yeah, I think I had salmon. What's your point? It was a straightforward shooting weekend. Straightforward salmon, straightforward shooting.
I'm just trying to work this out, because you said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long...
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
Yeah, but I wasn't just doing that. I wasn't just at the house of the child sex trafficker. I was playing table tennis. We went to Nando's. I'm not even joking. That shit's coming up in a minute. Woking.
It was a convenient place to stay. I've gone through this in my mind so many times. At the end of the day, with the benefit of all the hindsight that one can have, it was definitely the wrong thing to do.
Well done, mate. Well done. Well done. We were 15 minutes in here. Why couldn't you open with that? Why couldn't you open with that instead of, it was a straightforward shooting weekend? I'm in the Navy. I was doing a lot of things over there. They had board games and stuff. He was only child sex trafficking a bit.
But at the time, I felt it was the honourable and right thing to do. And I admit fully that my judgment was probably coloured by my
best friend child sex trafficker that you had?
Tendency to be too honourable.
Prince Andrew, why were you friends with a child sex offender? Well, you're really asking two questions there. The first, am I the best guy in the world? And the answer is yes.
But that's just the way it is.
Because during that time, those few days, witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going at the time. There is video footage of Epstein accompanied by young girls. And you were there staying in his house, catching up with friends.
If they were, then I wasn't a party to any of that. I never saw them. I mean, you have to understand that his house, I described it more as almost as a railway station, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, mate. No, I don't know what you mean when you said his house was like a railway station. I mean, we move in different circles. But to be fair, I don't have any friends that are the head of a giant child sex trafficking ring. So how would I know?
So there were people coming in and out of that house all the time. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make any comment on that because I really don't know.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent. Now, he described
Really?
seeing you there getting a foot massage from a young Russian woman. Did that happen?
No.
You're absolutely sure, or
Yeah.
you can't remember?
Absolutely sure.
So John Brockman's statement is false.
Well, I don't know Mr. Brockman, so I don't know what he's talking about.
But that definitely wasn't you getting a foot massage from a Russian girl in Jeffrey Epstein's house.
No.
Is it me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
It might seem a funny way to break off a friendship, a 4-day house party of sorts with a dinner. It's an odd way to break
It's a
up a
difficult
friendship.
way of putting it. That's a very stark way of putting it. Yes, you're absolutely right.
It's the only way to put it. It's the only way a rational person is going to look at this. I was going, oh yeah, I wasn't really good friends with the guy. I only saw him 3 times a year. So yeah, I was at his house, his free house that he lent me. And I was going around there to tell him, listen, now that you're a child sex trafficker, you won't be hanging out with me anymore. So we had a 5-day party and a dinner. Oh, never been to a party. I don't know what one is. I'm an incredibly honorable man, and I was once in the Navy. I don't know if you know how isolating that is. But also, I was friends with his wife. Do you know what her name was?
But actually, the truth of it is that I actually only saw him for about the dinner party, the walk in the park, and probably passing in the passage.
Just the dinner party, the walk in the park, and then just passing in the passage. Can you try and make it sound less like his house is actually a giant child sex trafficking dungeon in the passage? I just saw him by the torture rack. I just said hi. Oh, I'm sorry, you gotta laugh. It's too morbid. Listen, I was gonna break down the whole interview, but this fucking thing is like 45 minutes long without me saying anything. So we're gonna do this across 2 parts. This is obviously the end of part 1 because there's only so much of this goddamn awful stuff I can take. And we'll do part 2 tomorrow, and I'll actually do that. So Thanks very much to everyone that supports the channel on Subscribestar and via PayPal, and the links to the description. Obviously, this content isn't going to be monetized. I don't need to tell you that. Obviously, there's a 60% chance that I commit suicide within the next 2 weeks now that I've done this. Yeah, so please continue to do so. Thanks very much, and of course, go yourself. That's the end of the video again. The video's ending in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ending now. It's the end of the fucking video, man. Go fuck yourself.